Privacy and Security Forum in Boston. And joining me today is Nate Russ, Director of Healthcare with Symantec. Welcome, Nate.
Good morning.
Just to start things off here, what are the biggest cyber threats Symantec is seeing today?
Sure. So across the industry, just a continuous increase in activity from cybercrime, as well as more prevalence of nation-state level actors going after all sorts of industries, healthcare, increasingly targeted.
And to what do you attribute the increase in cybercrime?
I think in terms of for our industry, specifically for healthcare, it's understanding the value of the information that can be stolen. So just plain and simply, a patient record is now worth $300 to $500 in the open market, given the information contained within it. And so, historically, financial services has been a big target. Other people who hold lots of information, obviously sources of intellectual property. But within healthcare, I'd say maybe 85% of the target is that patient record data, the rest being typical PCI type data, credit card information and such.
Indeed. And now what kind of changes are you seeing to the threat landscape?
Yeah, the biggest thing is that the targeted attacks have really taken over kind of the big picture of the risk surface, if you will. The bottom line is that our customers, healthcare providers, are under constant surveillance. So that reconnaissance element of constantly looking for ways to get into networks through social engineering, through typical more typical approaches in terms of going through networks, looking for vulnerabilities. We just see that the targeted attacks are kind of a constant presence now, and so it's really not a matter of if bad actors are in networks. It's kind of more of an kind of reality that they are, and so it really does raise the issue of things like good security awareness training as well as technical controls.
Now, you mentioned the uptick in nation states being involved in cybersecurity issues.
Sure.
What are some of the other most prominent groups?
Yeah, I'd say it's really the Eastern European crime, cyber criminal rings that we see. We do publish an internet security threat report based on just the information we pull from all of the monitored endpoints Symantec sees, both through the Norton side as well as enterprises. So, there's a pretty clear kind of research documentation of what we see. But yeah, I'd say the cyber criminals are the main actors still.
And what exactly are they after? What types of data?
Sure. So in our market, of course, we have people who run hospitals, but we also have academic research institutions. So one thing that's been new, a new angle, was, as we all saw here, Boston Children's attracted the attention of Anonymous, kind of the political hacktivism around patient care and really how a patient was going to be handled. And so, that was a new angle. But in terms of the data, we've seen everything from, the PHI that we talked about, the personal health info, and the PCI data, as well as there was a published case last year. One of the NYU researchers was working in cooperation with a foreign government around some advanced MRI technology. So I think there's a pretty good awareness of who's developing what technology, and so that way, you'll just see those institutions are increasingly targeted.
And one of the speakers yesterday mentioned that they are often after treatment regimens for things like cancer, the Ebola outbreak.
Sure.
Are you seeing that as well? You mentioned the MRI.
Yeah, I think it's there. I don't have a direct answer in terms of evidence of that, but it logically makes sense as we look at, if you just look at the news today between what's going on in Iraq, what's going on in Ukraine, kind of the way cyber warfare evolves in terms of almost like the missile crisis or the mutually assured destruction in the 80s from nukes. I think there is just a constant effort going on that does involve public health. I mean, health is critical infrastructure, was defined that way. And so just like we see attacks within SCADA environments for things like industrial control systems, power grids, water supply, we can expect disruption to public health care as just kind of an ongoing thing to be considered.
Bearing that in mind, and as a final question here, what are your top 3 recommendations for combating targeted attacks?
Yeah, so the biggest one, frankly, is organizational and cultural. So I think within healthcare, and that, again, is a broad spectrum of organizations, providers, there has to be a board level recognition that security goes right there with the business strategy and financial strategy of the organization. So it's board level awareness of what security means to the organization. So that gives greater voice, it gives greater budget, it gives the greater ability to really control what goes on in an organization, reflecting an awareness of security risk. The good news is a lot of organizations today that we work with, frankly, own some good technology, but just happen to be underdeployed. So patch management, we've all been looking at this issue for a long time, and where that's fallen down is frankly sometimes tied to budgeting to do things like upgrades of endpoints. So the necessity for patch management is clear. I think the ability to increase staff, maybe leverage third-party services for security awareness, just security intelligence, to really make people's staff smarter. So I look at those two, and then what we see a lot of organizations doing is looking at the next generation network defenses. So next generation IPS, next generation firewall. They can do some pretty neat things in terms of prevention and detection of targeted attacks.
Excellent. And just any final thoughts?
Well, final thought is it's a fantastic industry to be in with a lot on the line. I think that this is probably as hard as it's going to be. Given the news between some very public breaches in our industry, I think we're finally at that tipping point where our customers who are trying to secure healthcare systems are really going to, on average, get more resources and the tools they need to be effective.
All right. Well, thanks for joining me here at the Privacy and Security Forum in Boston.
Thank you.